So, as you could tell, I just got through running across the cornfields with my dogs to come over here on a Saturday and say hi to everybody. So I'll get better at this. We'll get higher quality in the editing room because I do all my own production too. Anyway, again, love you guys. Go say hi to somebody. Just wave at somebody. Start there. Just wave at some people. Younger people, older people. I did that backwards, didn't I? Younger people, older people. Just go out and say hi. Let's start. There was a hashtag that Barbie wants to get started. I'll have to look that up. I'll have to look through some of the old films. We need to be pulling together and discussing these items, and not be afraid to have a dinner. What do they call it? Table dinner, or around the dinner table. Politics is a device to keep this country moving forward. I know that all the people in the middle class want this country to keep moving forward. I also know that the politicians we have currently in place on both sides of the aisle, some way more than others, but we have a situation now where the politicians don't want us to necessarily move forward. They want, in our education and our information to be lower and lower so that they can control more. They have very perfect lives, really. And these are the things we don't understand. You know, we need to really be able to have the courage and have the patience to be looking at our politicians more directly, with more information. As I've said before, we have a utopia coming, and if we don't have control over our politicians, as that utopia comes, then we won't have that utopia. We will be moved into whatever needs that the country has, without the rewards. This middle class of America has been stronger and done more than my own. I know I'm biased, but than any other. As a matter of fact, all the middle classes, around the world, is what the economy is built on, and we have no say at how that money is spent. You know what? I really want to change that intro video. Yeah, you've seen, you all who have been here for a while have seen, I don't know, I've got like a dozen different ones, but there's two of them that are really they're really the worst production capable ones, but that song in the background that I chose to put with it, that song is so addicting. But, hey, let's get into today. Oh, by the way, I'm going to have a little bit of issue today because I've been up with my dog. He's Boomer. You guys know Boomer. He's my big freaking 180-pound lap dog, but he's been sick over the last couple of days and leaving little bumps all around. So I'm dealing with that all through the night. So please excuse me if I'm a little bit under the weather today. So in Insights and Straight Talk, welcome. This is Insights and Straight Talk with Rodd Duff and producer Barbie. I appreciate you guys being here. What is going on with my thing today? Here we're sitting with a guest who sits at the intersection of spirituality, psychology, national identity, and human evolution. Today, we sit down with the Paraclete, author of The Modern Citizen. This is going to be an exciting conversation today. The spiritual evolution of human and how to create a better world. His message is bold, unsettling, hopeful, and deeply needed right now. At this time, at a time when chaos, confusion, division, sickness, and indifference seems to define the world we're living in. He argues that humanity isn't broken, it's unfinished. We are a species mid-transformation, caught between ancient instincts and the emerging consciousness required to build the to build the unified, mature civilization. Hey, hang on just a second here, folks. Hey, Don, can you turn that down just a touch? We have some people in the audience here live today, and no, please listen to it, just not as loud because it actually goes through my headphones. I've tried to get him on film, but he won't come on. He says if he wanted to be in the background, he'd be in Hollywood as an actor instead of here screwing around with little folks like us. So let's get back to it. And today's guest, he says America has a role to play in that transformation, a responsibility we've drifted away from, but we can reclaim. I want to bring in a few talking points to kind of go through how we're going to discuss in today's role, in today's discussion, what we're going to talk about. How do we build humanity? How do we know it's overwhelmed? Because everywhere you look, people are drowning in noise, fear, and fragmentation. The Paraclete says it's not collapse. It's not psychological evolution happening in real time. That's what's going on. This is our evolution, our psychological evolution happening in real time. Another point I want to go over today is every major spiritual tradition, every ancient wisdom text, and even modern psychology points to the same idea. All these things wrap around and come to the same point. The real battlefield is inside of us, not in Washington, not in the economy, not in each news cycle, but the human psyche. That's what I want to challenge today. Today, another point. The Paraclete, he argues that we've become addicted to division. We don't debate what is right anymore. We argue about who is right. This is a national disease that weakens our spirit and blinds us. It blinds us to our shared purpose. Another thing I want to go over today. The treasure humanity is searching for is not political or economic. It's psychological and spiritual. He calls it a treasured burden deep within the human psyche, waiting to be awakened so that transformation can radiate outward into families, communities, and nations. If America was chosen to lead humanity into a higher level of consciousness, then we must ask, what happens when the nation built on responsibility, unity, courage, and aspiration forgets its mission? Right? Think about that. Ponder on that. The Paraclete believes America is not dying. It's being tested. And every test in human evolution forces a choice: collapse into fear or raise into maturity. That choice sits within each of us. Environmental destruction, political chaos, mental health crises, and collapse trust are not random problems. They are symptoms of spiritual decline. Until we evolve inwardly, our society will continue showing these outward fractures. There's a lot going on right now, folks, and we need to really kind of keep diving down. That's why I've been so excited about this episode today for quite a while, because we're starting to get into some of the things that are fractured beyond our own internal disease. The things that are fractured come from the halls of government. By the way, we have 122 people on right now. Please subscribe. Of course, I need to ask you, like the episode. Of course, if you like it, please do, as well as subscribe to our Substack, and welcome today, because this message calls for a merging of ancient wisdom and modern psychology. This is a critical pivot point for us on this show. We're at almost 500 episodes now over the last year and a half. You know, we need a unified approach to being human that helps us move beyond tribal identity and into collective purpose without losing individuality or freedom. Couple more talking points here. The next phase of human consciousness isn't mystical, it's practical. It looks like people who think more clarity, act more compassion, govern more wisdom, and treat each other as part of a shared destiny rather than opposing tribes. There's no red and blue in this world. He makes this point very clearly. America can still be reborn through the unity of purpose, through psychology maturity, through spiritual evolution, through a willingness to step back into the responsibility we were built for. So just to kind of transition into bringing in, hold on, let me go back here for a second. I just want to impress upon the point, and I'm sorry for this very scattered this morning, no sleep introduction, but whether you come to this conversation through faith, through psychology, through patriotism, or simply the desire to understand what the world has become, the Paraclete invites you to look deeper, to question your assumptions, to reconnect with a sense of meaning and purpose that goes far beyond politics and headlines. And we need that today. That this episode opens a doorway into who we are, who we might become, and the awakening already underway inside millions of people across this country. Now let's step into this conversation with the Paraclete, author of The Modern Citizen, and explore humanity and America's role in it. With that, I'd love to welcome you to this episode. And as we talked about back in the green room, can you give us a little of your history, introduce yourself? And I'm very excited about this conversation, because this conversation in America is neat. Well, and Europe is probably a little late for, but it could be used there. This conversation in America is needed now, and we have a lot of questions already opening up. How you doing, brother? Good to see you.
I'm doing really well. And with that explanation that you gave in the beginning, I don't think you need me here, because you seem to understand the subject so well that
I'll tell you.
Really, you inspired me to follow your understanding, because it is so deep and important.
Well, I appreciate that, and thank you. But at the end of the day, this is a conversation we need to fold out and kind of develop, because our country, there's so many things, so many different things going on right now. And we're at a point in history and time and in momentum and in moment that there's who knows what to believe anymore. Who
Right.
knows we have the media spinning us around in circles on both sides,
Yeah.
and the media is
Yes.
actually both sides now. You have to say that, just like if you were sitting in Congress. There's the right side of the aisle, there's the left side of the aisle. The media, today's media is no different. They're either right or they're left, and they're each spinning their stories one way or the other, depending on what the story is that needs to be portrayed that day.
Right, right. But we need to go beyond that. We need to go beyond
Yeah,
that. We need to
please.
travel through the middle. And each side is going to be screaming and yelling, their own point. But if enable for us to be able to have a clear vision of the future that we want, we can't be distracted by
Yes.
problems and issues that really we have not been able to solve for many, many, many years. The abortion problem. How long have we been discussing abortion? Over what, 60 years?
At least.
Drug problems. How long have we been dealing with that? And so we need to focus on the goal. What is it that we really want to accomplish? And put aside all the rhetoric and all the conflicting opinions. And from there, we can build a vision of the future for ourselves. Because I have some ideas, but a lot of people have other ideas that might be better. So we need to actually we need a transformation of the whole system. I mean,
Yeah.
political,
No.
economic, social, and these are not easy things to do, and there will be some very big sacrifices that we would need to make in order to actually help the United States, evolve to the next level. And we need to, first of all, develop a plan, because I see a lot of, YouTubers and influencers criticizing so much, criticizing the government, the wealthy. Well, what are we going to do? Are we going to get rid of these people? What are you going to do with the government? We need the government. We need the
Yeah.
wealthy.
No.
We need large
No.
corporations. So
Let me
yes.
jump in just a second here, and as you're going along, and as I told you real quickly back in the green room, every once in a while I want to make sure and jump in and maybe hover for a minute and expand on a
That's
subject.
good. You got to stop me, because when I get going, I just keep talking.
Hey, that's my job. I'm the referee. I'm the guy in the stripes on the sideline going, whoop, hang on, 1st and 10, go that way. We've got a lot of questions already. And before we even get into those, I wanted to we've got 300 people, almost 300 people on right now. And I appreciate you folks for being here. I want to give a quick shout out to the Mangum City Library for sponsoring us. We're about ready to announce an additional sponsorship on another show, so we're very excited about how this message is moving. But I've been very excited about this particular episode today, because there's a couple of different subjects that I think are really important. I mean, don't get me wrong. This show is for the great middle class, as you all know. This is Insights and Straight Talk with Rodd Duff and producer Barbie, who I'm sure will be calling me shortly. She usually pops in, tries to jump in the show. She does a lot of work for us in the background, and has been a cohort for quite a while. And this show started as a political discussion and has kind of expanded into multiple different lanes. And you said, sir, Mr. Paraclete, I still can't get your name. I know you've got reasons for that, and I'll respect that. But this show started as a political issue, and that opening monologue that we had, or that opening video that we had, was from about a year and a half ago, and we've got half a dozen of them, and I pick and choose. But my point being that politics today is now more critical than it even was a year and a half ago. I mean, we went from one administration, the previous administration, into the Biden administration, back into now a new Trump administration. And obviously those things are supposed to change according to the electorate, how we choose where we want our country to go. Some good decisions and some bad decisions over time have definitely occurred.
Right.
But never more important is our politics than today,
I
because
agree. I agree.
because there's so much going on, which you were just alluding into, or you were just kind of leaning into just now.
Well,
Go ahead.
well, one of the thing is one of the things that I see in the world, and in America mostly, is that democracy wants to evolve, and we're not allowing it. So, we elect our delegates and our representatives, but that was okay back in the 1700s and 1800s, when you had a population that was not very well educated. And, we
True.
were farmers with pitchforks, and we really didn't have the access to the education that we do today. So
True.
the citizens nowadays are very, very intelligent. And a lot of people might disagree with me, but this nation is powerhouse of talent and abilities, and the knowledge that we have nowadays available, has made us into very, very smart individuals. And we have, lawyers and doctors and engineers and, psychiatrists, psychologists. It's a powerhouse. And the way democracy evolves, we're really a republic. So if you want to
A
make it a
democratic
real democracy,
republic, right?
yes,
That's what you're saying. We're not actually a true democracy, because if we're a true democracy, then every single person would vote on every single issue, and
yes,
potentially the majority, which would, if you put New York and California together, one side of the political spectrum would run everything. And then if you're a democracy, you could actually make the minority, right? If you're the majority,
right.
right?
Well,
You can make the minority powerless. So we're a democratic republic. As you were just getting into, we
Right.
vote people in to represent what we want them to do. Go on from there. I'm
Right,
sorry.
but it depends on the individual and the information they have to make decisions.
Sure.
And one of the ways that
Absolutely.
we can actually make our opinions, count, is if the government implements some type of referendum when big decisions are being made, because we are the ones who are funding the government, and we are the ones out there, working our butts off to support the government and the institutions. We distribute the power, so we want to have a say on where our money goes. How do you spend it? If you're going to go to war with another country, we want you to listen to us and do a referendum and say, well, 70-80% of the country doesn't want to go to war with this country. It's our money. We are the ones who are going to go there to die.
And our kids. It's our
And our
money
kids.
and
So-
our kids.
Exactly. So we need to have a say. And they if it's a large majority, it's 70 to 30 or 80 to 20, then they need to listen to us. If it's
So
51%, majority, then you can
50, 49. Yeah. So
Yeah.
let me. I was just talking about this the other day, and I can tell I'm going to have to arm wrestle you to kind of get you to flow within the back
Okay.
and forth here a little bit.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but we were just talking about that the other day on this show,
Right.
in that in that we were having a conversation, and in that conversation, part of it was that at some point we need to be able to have, like, let's call them watch parties. And if we have watch parties where people come together and they discuss what their leader that they're choosing to put into office. Barbie is actually producer Barbie. She lives in California now. She was from California and moved back when I moved down here to Oklahoma. But she same thing. The watch parties. She has put together these groups, and people are saying, "Well, that sounds like a good referendum, or that sounds like a good representative, or this or that." But then they started discussing back and forth what that person did or promised and then didn't fulfill or did fulfill. And so that whole thing became a moment of, we're actually going to look at what representative actually is worthy of us putting them into office. And we don't do that today as a nation. We either
Right.
vote all red or all blue. I'm an independent,
Exactly.
which means absolutely nothing because Bernie Sanders is an independent. And
Right.
although I'm very much in the middle, he and I are still way far apart on a lot of things. I'm not necessarily agreeable to everything that Trump's administration is doing, but I do believe in trust and verify, uh,
Right.
because no matter who the leader is, we want them to be successful. However, we've got to make sure we put the right leaders in the right positions, and we don't do that as a democratic republic. We don't do that today. Our founders were elites. They were the people that
Right.
everybody hates today. However, what our founders did do is said this: everything must be for the people, by the people, and of the people.
Right.
Right? They
Right.
put this.
And
They
and
put
and
this
to touch on
magic
that,
bullet.
and to touch, since you touch on the founding fathers, we need to get back to the basics of why this nation was created and how it was created. Because when you go back and you listen to these people, they mention something that we overlook nowadays. They talk about divine providence. Divine providence was the reason this nation was created and why they
Expand
were
on that.
successful.
Expand on divine province.
And that's
So,
yes, I will. And that's why this nation was created. We were created to bring about and unfold a divine plan for humanity. And they understood that. And they even put it in our symbols where they say, in the pyramids there it says, he has smiled upon our accomplishments. So that deep faith that they had is something that we need to find again, because otherwise we're not going to be successful at anything, constructing a new system or a new America. So it needs to be back to the basic, the roots of why this nation exists. And from there, we'll be able to accomplish the things that we want to do. And we'll be really amazed at some of the accomplishments uh, that we will be able to create. But without it, we're lost. We keep fighting with each other. We keep neglecting our responsibilities towards the society. We keep thinking so much about ourselves and how we make a living and how to make this country wealthier and more powerful. And it's not about that. It's about distributing the wealth and the well-being throughout the world. First in the United States, because we shouldn't have,
so
people
what does that
struggling.
look
We
like?
shouldn't have people struggling.
What does that look like? What is redistributing to
A
you? What is
world,
redistributing
a,
the
a
wealth look
world
like?
of a world of prosperity, a world where we have reached a point in time in the development of humanity where there's abundance of everything. We have
There
abundance
is.
of food, of money, of technology. There shouldn't be a reason why anybody goes without, because
And
there's so much of it.
but let me back you up a little bit, because I totally agree with you. I don't know if at the end of this part of the conversation we're going to be on the same exact lane, but I do agree with you 100% that we live in a world of abundancy. I talk about a utopia coming with AI,
Right.
where costs of goods and services are going to be coming down and down and down, to where nobody should ever live with what we consider the poverty limit. The poverty line. Nobody should live
Right.
below that. Right now, I think that poverty line is somewhere around, for a family of four, is like $43,000. The average income in Louisiana is like $34,000. So
Right.
that's obviously there. And yet still the Congress, the Congress, when a Congressperson comes into office, their budget for office furniture is $47,000. So
Imagine that.
what you're saying is 100% accurate. Now,
Right.
what I kind of jostle with people about, when they talk about redistributing wealth, they talk about the billionaires that they don't need so much money, so they should or millionaires or whatever.
Right.
Millionaires really aren't really that wealthy anymore in today's world, especially if you live in certain places where the cost of living is ridiculous. But
Right.
my point is, we spend, and producer Barbie actually made me aware of this. We spend as a nation $16.7 trillion a year. And that's traditional, going through history for a while. I mean, you got to change it according to the annum to what the dollar's worth. But basically, what we're spending now is not uncommon. It's been going that way forever. But you know what?
There's abundance.
I bet you if we spend half of that, the U.S. government would work just fine, and there'd be half of that in the people's. There'd be half of that. There'd be $8 trillion in 300 million people's pockets. What would that do to distribution of wealth? Is that where you were going, or were you going another direction on?
Well, like I said, yes, it has to do with government, and we need to. I agree with you that we have to shrink the government to a point where
waste and corruption. I think waste and corruption is most of where those dollars go, not just people. Just waste and corruption.
And I saw recently an episode with Elon Musk where he was in there in the government, and
Doge?
he was asked.
Talking about Doge?
He was asked. You know what? If you had full power to do anything you wanted to with the government, what would you have been able to do? He said, "Well, I would have cut the budget in half, and we would have gotten more accomplished than we do now." And I believe
Look what he did with Twitter.
I believe
Look what he
that.
did with Twitter.
Right.
Look what he did with Twitter, right? I mean,
Yeah,
everybody called him a maniac.
Yeah, and I believe that it can be achieved, because government should be like a referee to the economy and to us. They shouldn't be, directing everything. They should be like the referees and protectors of the country, and that's about as far as they should go. Everything else should be with the economy, and these big, huge institutions need to be more socially conscious. And that's one of the main things that I touch in the book, is about making these large corporations realize that they need to put a lot more money back into their society, because as we explained before, we are the ones who give them the power and the money. And we don't give them that power and that money so they can go and spend it in $200 million yachts. and 3, 4 Rolls Royces and Lamborghinis, they can still have some of the best things in life. But man, you need to put back into your society, because we are the ones who are supporting you. And we started supporting you because we believed in you. And now you come back and just rub all this luxury stuff in our faces. And we don't like that. That's not why we want you. That's not why we put you there. We put you there because we want you to help us help humanity and the United States evolve and become a better nation. So the way to start is through consciousness, trying to help them understand their position in this society, so that they can hopefully, have a change of heart and say, well, yes, our company is going to put in 20% of our profits back into the community. 30%, whatever it is. A lot of people think that's unrealistic, but it's not.
What does that look like? Let me ask you this. To you, what is that? Because if you're looking at different products, a manufactured product typically has a margin, a profit margin of 30 to 40%. So a widget costs $1. 70% of that dollar goes to employees, to taxes. You realize that the top 1%. Hold on. Let me finish the topic for a second. Right now, Mondavi, right in New York, is talking about taxing the wealthy, redistributing wealth. In other words, moving away from our socioeconomic system, capitalism, into more of a socialism. Communism is something different. Socialism is redistributing wealth. Everybody in America is a. Let me finish this up. Is a communist, because if we have family, you have kids. What do they need? We give it to them. What do you need? We give it to them. What do you need? We give it to them. Socialism is more like everybody in our society. We give people a little help, redistribute some wealth, and then you go out to the national, and it's like, fuck everybody out there. We don't know them. So that's where capitalism, or I should say, communism, fails back. So you're talking about socialism in a sense here. Or maybe straight out.
It's not socialism. It's not about socialism.
But if you're redistributing wealth, you're taking somebody's earned income and taking it away from them and giving it to somebody who really had nothing to do with it, and giving it to them. That's what you're talking about. Right?
Well, what I want you to understand that this is not something that, like Mondani is doing something like that. It's through the government. Okay. What we need is to inspire these very wealthy individuals to have social consciousness, to understand, okay, not by force, but to understand that we need their contribution to society. We should have free education in America. And that's not socialism. What it is, that is social consciousness, for these people to understand that their corporations are going to benefit the most when these college kids graduate, and they should fund, and they do to a certain extent nowadays, but not enough.
They do.
Now, if you look just recently, Dell Computers, they gave, I think it was $6.5 billion to this program that Trump is putting together to give kids, an investment account, and that's great. That is really good.
Explain what that is. Hold on. Explain that program. What is that program you're talking about?
Well, the Trump came up with this program where they're going to put $1,000 to each kid. I think it's the age below 10 years old, and a certain threshold of income to the family. And they're going to do like an investment account, like an IRA for these kids, $1,000 each. I think it's 25 million kids or something like that. So Dell came up and said, well, we're gonna put $6.5 billion in there, and that is great. But what we need is more people doing that, and not only once a year, throughout their lifetime. We need them to do it every single year. They need to implement a program in their companies that is for social development. And we should, as a nation, we should request that they do this, because when you come down to it and you realize that the multi-billionaires of Rockefeller, the Carnegie, towards the end of their life, they realized, what are they going to do with all this money? And
Right.
they just started giving it back and building institutions and of learning and everything else. Well, you don't have to wait till you're dying to do this. Let's do it along the way and create a much better society. And like I said, education. How any kid that's approved that gets into Harvard should be able to go to Harvard, no matter if the parents are middle class or fairly wealthy. They should have free education. They should. How can I say that? Our most valuable asset is the young generations. So we should invest in that. We should put money in that. You can't tell me that there's not enough money to protect my kids when they go to the university or high school or junior high school. You can't tell me there's not enough money to put a police officer with an AR in every single door and exit of that school, to have snipers around the schools, okay, to protect our kids. How can we allow our kids to be shut up in the school when they're supposed to feel safe? And you're telling me there's not enough money for that? I'm very angry, because
there is.
That's our future. You're telling me you don't have money to protect our kids? Come on.
But here's the thing. So you brought up one good point. The leaders of large organizations, totally agree. I like that concept. Like you said, Dell is giving, what'd you say, $8 billion or whatever it was to this program,
or something like that. Yeah, it's a lot of money.
Whatever it is. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that obviously can be a regular thing. But then you went right into the schools, and you talked about Harvard. And you realize Harvard has I think an $8 billion trough money that they have within their own system that has been given to them over the years. And what do they spend on it? So I think you're onto something. I know you're onto something, obviously, here. The leaders of large companies, they have their things that they need to do. We need to hold accountable these institutions like Harvard, like Stanford, like UCLA, like Texas A&M, on and on and on. They have all this money. They have all this money inside. Well, it's not even the sports side of things, because there's that's its own moneymaker. But there's also what people give to. I mean, Harvard isn't making money off their sports organizations. They don't have $8 billion in their troughs because of their sports. It's because people give them money, and our nation, our government gives them money.
Right.
And what do they do with it? They have guys go onto girls' teams. They aren't doing what's best for our country. Whether you're a trans fan or not, put that aside. Doesn't matter. That has nothing to do with why Harvard should have money. It should be putting people up on the roofs, protecting people, making sure nobody gets shot. It should be making sure that family out of Compton that has the brilliant kid can get into to Harvard. That's what it should be, but it's not, is it?
Right. Like I said, education is one of the most important things that we have, and And the future, it does belong to our kids. So we got to protect them and we got to educate them. That's all we need to do. And we're not doing it properly. And
No, we're not.
we should, they should have the opportunities, the best opportunities in the world. And if a kid, it gets accepted to Stanford, Harvard, or Cornell, whatever, they should be able to go there for free without having to worry about, taking a loan for $500,000 and paying it off, trying to pay it off for the rest of their lives. And what are those kids going to do when they graduate and they start making, $300,000-$400,000 a year? They're going to put money back into the system because they also appreciate what the country has done for them. So we got to instill that type of mentality in the nation and in everybody. And it's pretty much what John F. Kennedy and his brother were talking about. We got to look more towards what can we do for the country? How can we better it? Instead of looking out for ourselves.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you this. So Dennis Jim, he's got an interesting question here. We got about 8 or 10 questions here. I just want to sprinkle a couple in while we're talking here. But Dennis asks, it's a fascinating topic, which I agree. And your approach is different. Is got a bit of a quirk to it, which is interesting to me. But he says, fascinating topic. Do you think America is truly ready for a spiritual rebirth? Because what you're talking about now kind of has that feeling of spirituality, that coming from the inside out. Somebody who is more spiritual should be looking to give back to what they received. Right? Am I kind of correct there? And can you?
Yes. We are more ready now than ever before, because you can feel it, you can see it. People like you, everybody you talk to, they're very worried about the conditions of the United States, and they see that we need a transformation, and that things need to change. So we are ready. We are ready.
So what do you think what all do you think needs to change? Because there's a lot. I could not agree with you more.
Oh, there's so many things. There's so many things. But we need to look at the main issues, okay? The main issues.
Right.
The big ones that we have kind of neglected a little bit, and we're starting to talk about, LGBT community and racism and this and that, and those abortion, those things are really they're not the main issues that we got to deal with. First of all, we got to deal with
the main issues we look at. What are the main issues we need to deal with?
Because America, it was built on the philosophy or the belief that live and let live. So if you're a trans and you want me to respect you, I will. I'll respect your way of life, but respect mine. So, I don't want my girls to, have a penis go into their bathroom. You got to respect, you got to have respect, and I'll respect you. And that's how we get along in this country. From people from all nationalities, I respect your religion, respect mine, and that's how it works. So
it's kind of.
But the major issues. Yes.
I was just going to say, it's kind of funny because you brought up the trans community, and it reminded me. I think you're not as old as I am, but anyway, going back in time when first the term coming out of the closet came from the gay community.
Right. Yeah.
The gay community is very intertwined with all of American culture. But when they first came out, they came out abrupt and hard and strong, and you've got to come to me and be all about me and all about. and gay pride.
Well, they needed to fight for their rights. They needed to fight for their
So
rights.
they fought for
and
their
they
rights,
did. And
then they got their rights, and
and
everybody
amen
was
to
like,
them, because
everything's cool. Everything's cool. Just don't, like you're saying now with the trans community, it's be trans, be what you want, but don't force me to be something other than
be
I
what you
am.
want to be.
Well, right?
Exactly, and don't try to enforce your point of view on our families. You can be whatever you want, and that's fine. But I'll respect it. But respect us. And I live in Florida, and the government removed.
We're in Florida. Wait. We're in Florida.
Governor DeSantis removed some books from school.
Where in Florida do you
I
live?
can't hear you. I'm
Where
in
in
Miami,
Florida
Florida.
do you live? Miami. Okay, so
I'm
you
from
live.
Miami,
Oh
Florida.
man, you live in an
Yeah,
awesome part of. Oh man, you love. So what were you talking
I've
about? I
lived
just
here
wanted to
most
know
of
where
my
you
life.
live.
I lived here
Beautiful. Where do you
most of my life. Yeah.
where do you? So you said you. By the way, I love DeSantis. I think he's an up and comer that's very intelligent, very well spoken, smart guy. But what were you saying about him? I didn't hear that part.
Well, he's got two little girls, and he was looking at some of the books that were in school, and even math problems they would put, with homosexuals and LGBT, and you got some homosexuals in one room, and you got two LGBT in another. If you add them together, what do you get? Stuff like that, which really, math is about math. Math,
So, whoa,
you don't try to put
whoa,
these social
whoa,
problems
whoa,
into our kids.
whoa, whoa.
Those were the kind of
You're
books he
saying
had
that
removed.
you're saying in a math book they actually said if you have two LGBTQT people and you added two more,
Well,
how
I'm
many?
just giving you a broad
That,
example. I'm just giving you a broad
wow,
example. I'm not telling you,
that's
exactly how
bizarre.
the equations were made up. But yes, they used to use, sexual orientation and stuff like that to do math problems, and he didn't like that.
That's
He said, "I
bizarre.
don't want you to be." Yeah. So like I said, don't push it. Don't push it. Just respect me, I respect you, and that's a mentality that keeps America. It keeps us from eating each other alive, and fighting all the time. So
Well, you know what the government wants to keep us in our own boxes. They divide and conquer, right? I
well,
mean, that's
I hear so much conspiracies and things about our government, and really I think we should focus on something else. We should focus on inspiring the people that are in our government and making them realize that you know to stop the corruption, and if they are doing it, to start giving some money back. I think we need to raise their consciousness so they can understand that they're there to serve us and not their
right.
lobbyist friends or large corporations. And we need to, because these people went into that profession because they believed, I think, from the beginning that they were born to serve, your nation. And just like, Teddy Roosevelt, when he came in, he was like, you know, public service is the most important, part of a person's life. And that's what he did with his whole life.
So let me ask you this. Let's go on to Danny here.
First, we need to inspire them. First, we need to inspire them. We need to try to make them realize that we need them to help us, because we need the help of the government. We need the government. But
well, yeah, the government needs to
concentrating all this on these that the government is bad, that the government is going to hurt us. Government is trying to, keep our designed. I think they just don't know what's happening. They have no clue on what the American people want, and and how to guide the nation towards a better future. And they look towards us, and all we do is criticize them. So we need to figure out a way to tell them, listen, this is what we need you to do for us, and reach out to them. And hopefully most of them will, come to their senses and start working with us. If that doesn't work, then you have other options, which are a little more, should I say, radical or stronger, which, always, you got to always keep in mind that it has to be done peacefully. Because if you try to negotiate with the government or institutions and they don't want to help out, you need to, start changing that in a peaceful way, because it can get very nasty. As we have seen, with civil wars that we had and all that kind of stuff. So we don't want to repeat anything like that, because it's going to make everything worse than it is now. So whatever we do has to be done with a plan.
What do you? Let's answer some of these questions here. What do you think is the biggest barrier stopping humanity from evolving right now? Do you not think it's the government? Because my opinion is this: we need to start voting people in and voting people out according to who they are, not according to what party they belong to.
Right.
I think that's where everything begins. That's where the problem begins. Everything starts there. So what do you think is the biggest barrier from stopping humanity from evolving right now? I've got a number of them that fit right where we're talking right now. I'd love to.
Our egoistic, greedy nature,
Yeah, but isn't that people? Isn't that money. People in general?
Yeah, but we need to evolve. We need to change. We need to realize there's a lot, there's, like we talked about before, there's abundance. There's no need for us to be striving and just searching for this wealth and this money. We need to evolve one step further and realize that one of the best things in life is to develop yourself to your fullest potential, and the money comes, and you don't have to be thinking about it so much or wanting so much for yourself. Because once you see a vision of the future of humanity, that if we give up a little bit of ourselves, what the future is going to look like, then you will give everything you have so we can have that future. And it's a marvelous future. It's a world that's going to be prosperous all over. And you hear some of these people say, well, the world, there's no boundaries from outer space, and there's no divisions between countries and everything else. And one of the ways to do that is to actually have the whole world to be prosperous, there be no more poverty. It's what we have always dreamed of achieving. And we can do it now. And that way, you're going to eliminate a lot of the problems. A lot of the immigration problems, people come to this country to better their life and make money and everything else, but they love their country. If they're living there and they can make a living and survive and not have to struggle, they're not going to want to come here or to Europe or anywhere else. They'll stay in their country. That's where they were born. That's where their family lives. They come looking for opportunities and a better life. But if they can find that in their own country, why are they going to come here? And that's one of the things, let me tell you, the United States is far behind their vision of the world. We are trying to solve the problems of the day, while the Chinese are dreaming of a future for humanity. And we're way behind, because I don't know if you know about the Silk Road, or an initiative that they're building. They have over 150 countries that want to get involved in the project, where they're going to connect the Middle East, Europe and South Africa, with all these road connections and ports, where they can distribute the wealth, in Middle East and African countries. Why are they doing this? Because they know that when these countries develop, and really there's many reasons, but China is I think they eventually want to move away a little bit from manufacturing because their nation is becoming, their people are becoming consumers now, big consumers, like Americans. So a lot of the Chinese are gonna, have the wealth where they can just consume and have the manufacturing, let's say, done in Africa somewhere or the Middle East. So I think that's all part of the plan, and the plan is to build up these poor nations, these underdeveloped countries, to a point where they can be more prosperous, so they can sell more products to them, and they're going to be selling, raw materials. And once these people can afford a house, they're going to buy TVs and buy furniture and all kinds of stuff. So the way you build up the world is to help other nations build up themselves to an extent. But we should do more, and we should think a little bit, how should I say, this idea with bringing manufacturing back to the United States. You know how expensive manual labor is here? I mean, how much more is our prices going to go up when, let's say, an automobile is going to be built by an American worker here, who's making $40, $50 an hour? Cars are expensive now. They're like $50,000 for a car. Well, how much more are they going to be? $60,000, $70,000? So I think you should instead of bringing manufacturing here, we should, the way we build the world is with a system that has been created by these Chinese. But we don't like to copy other nations. We like to do our own thing. But we should realize that these people, what they accomplished in 40 years, has never been done in the history of the human race. It's unbelievable.
Hold on. Hold. Dude,
Yeah.
Stop.
Sorry.
So you're saying
I told you I get going and I get going.
Yeah, I know. So just follow the lead. What you're saying then is that the Chinese in the last 40 years have accomplished something that's never been accomplished ever in the world? Is that I'm not quite sure I heard that, because the reason I asked that, let me finish. Shh. Because the Chinese, what you just described, they're now becoming consumers. You realize that America did that in the 20s. Mm-hmm. America built this country to where we were consumers, the largest consuming group in the freaking world ever.
Right.
In the 20s, where you're saying China is just now starting to become that, but they have Xi Jinping, who wants to be the world emperor for all of time in their way, because he's not allowing them to actually have a voice. He kills tens of millions of people who are Christians.
I'm not supporting the Chinese government at all.
Hold on, let me finish. We should be more like China, is what you're saying?
No.
Please don't tell me you're going down.
No. Far from that.
Well, that's what it sounds like you're saying.
No, you misunderstand me.
Yeah.
We should learn.
Yeah,
we should learn to take the systems that work and make it work for our benefit. Doesn't matter where they come from. Not political system. Not political.
Like capitalism.
That economic system.
Like capitalism.
I have people that used to deal with Chinese products, and they used to buy Chinese products 50 years ago. And the Chinese were riding bicycles. Huh?
Yeah, no, I do business in China. I've done business in China for decades. It's a bullshit place. You look at the front along the street and everything's perfect and beautiful. And then you go around the corner and everything's Chinese made. It's crap. It's copied.
They're spreading all over
robotic.
The world. And what it is, they're spreading all over the world. and you can't,
Oh no, they're
you
trying
can't
to.
overlook this. Yeah, you can't overlook it. And what I'm saying is we went through in the Industrial Revolution. It took us, almost 100 years. They did it in 40 years because the
They did
automation
it after
nowadays.
us. Stop.
Wait, wait, but
Okay, hold on. I've got to call you out on certain things. So
okay,
you can't. I wrote this poem called "An Old Man in His Shoes," and in the poem, I just sent it out a couple of days ago. But in the poem, it talks about moving the shrubs and the vines and the wickery out of the path for others who could follow, so they had an easier path. Right?
right,
That's
right,
what America has done. And to
right.
say that the Chinese accomplished something in so much quicker time than America did, you realize who
Well,
created
because
the
of
Industrial
technology,
Revolution. You
right?
realize who
Yeah,
created the Industrial Revolution. It was America, right?
right,
I mean
right.
that. So the rest of the world, it's like saying
I
the
understand.
Chinese can do a 4 minute
Listen,
mile now.
I'm not supporting.
Hold on. It's like saying the Chinese can run a 4 minute mile now. Well, back in the 80s, everybody tried to get to that 4 minute mile. Once it was done, now a lot of people can run a 4 minute mile. So
Right,
yeah, the Chinese can now run a 4 minute
right.
mile. Well, great for them
And
because of
so
us.
can the rest of the world. And so what my
Not
point
all of them. Not
is
all
that
of
we
them.
can use that
Yeah.
system, that economic system, to develop other nations. Is what I'm trying to get at. I'm not supporting the Chinese way of life or the government or
Do you think China's
anything
ever
else.
going to take on capitalism?
I think it's horrible. But the system. Look, when you go to a country, you say a country that's very, very poor, and you start bringing in manufacturing to that country.
Vietnam. Vietnam.
Now, that system that these Chinese used, which works so well, we can use that model to build up other countries, so they can
Not
go through their industrial revolution. Is what I'm saying,
not a chance
and
in
it's a
hell. Not a
proposition.
chance.
It doesn't. It's a
Not a chance.
proposition.
Hey, look at why wouldn't you say capitalism instead of the Chinese system? Because China is communist.
Well,
It's
capitalism,
communist.
yeah, yeah, capitalism. Yeah, I think, yeah, yeah. Bring
I
capitalism
mean,
in.
look at
But it's
capitalism is a
the
horrible
manufacturing.
system.
It has to go through manufacturing, is what I'm saying.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
So capitalism is a horrible system except for every other system in the world. I mean, every other system in the world. You're talking about using the Chinese concept of manufacturing. Well, that's not going to work. I mean, because then you're going to have the super elites and then you're going to have the rest of the economy.
well,
Because Chinese do not live as consumer capitalistic world. They have a very small minority of people that actually have the ability to create income. You know, and by the way,
right,
China's about ready to collapse. Its whole economic
right,
system is less than a decade away from collapsing because
right,
of the all the money that's owed for real estate. You know, they built
mm,
entire cities like Manhattan out there, and nobody lives
right,
in them because nobody can afford it.
mm,
So those notes are coming due. And who's going to
right,
have to pay for it? The fucking government is, because it's all
right.
going to collapse, right?
Mm.
There,
Yeah, I
you
mean,
got to
I don't
promote
know much about
capitalism.
what's going on. I don't know much about what's going on in China, but
I
like I'm saying, through manufacturing is how they build their nation, and we can build other countries through the manufacturing
how we
instead of
built
bringing
their
to the
nation.
United States. Look, we could, yeah, we
We
just
built
like we did
China,
with Japan, just like we did with the Japan
yeah,
after the war.
but
Japan, we
but
rebuilt
Japan's a
Japan
different
completely.
system. Japan's a
Right,
totally different system, though, much more
right,
democratic.
right. But what I'm saying is, okay, instead of bringing manufacturing back to the United States, which is going to be very expensive, you can go to these countries, let's say in Latin America, Salvador, places. Salvador has done many great things, and the labor is still very inexpensive there. And people are happy to work for a lot less because the money, it has more value over there, so they can afford a better way of living. And you can still pay them $5 an hour, $4 an hour, and they'll be happy because
Slave
as
labor.
opposed to having, as opposed to them having nothing right now, very few opportunities, they're going to have the opportunities, and those countries are going to flourish, and those companies are going to be, more favorable towards the United States of America, and they're going to be very grateful. I think we should help a lot of the countries on this side of the hemisphere instead of concentrating so much about the Middle East and everywhere else. I think we should,
I agree with that.
we should help our neighbors and go from there. But I mean, there's a lot of things that we need to understand and change in a way that help, the whole of humanity evolve, so we can eliminate poverty, so we can eliminate hunger, hunger and lack of housing and things like that. And that's what humanity have always dreamed of. We always wanted to have a more unified race that works together to achieve, a higher purpose. And what is that higher purpose? What are we going to eventually? What is the human race going to look like? 500-600 years from now? We got to look ahead into the future, and obviously, we want to colonize the universe. And that is within our grasp eventually.
Hey, hang on just a second. Hang on. Hey, Jerry, I'm on a show right now. Let me call you back after the show's over, okay? All right. So let me ask you this question. How do we shift from chaos to clarity on a national level? Because that's what you're talking about. You're talking about pulling everybody together and say, let's go fix the rest of the world, even though their governments are crap and bullshit and corrupt and more than us. And so we need to go fix the rest of the world. So how do we
First, we need to fix ourselves.
First, we need
to fix ourselves.
How do we do that?
We need to understand what's going on, first of all, in the world, in America, and in a spiritual sense. What's going on? Why is so much violence? Why is so much indifference? Why so much chaos and confusion in the world? Okay, and when you go back and you study some of the religions, and you go back and you say, well, I mean, I don't want to get too religious, but when you go back to Revelations and you read how the world is going to be consumed by fire, that fire they talk about is not a literal fire. It's not a nuclear warfare. Okay? Right. It's a psychological warfare. It's a psychological fire that's going to destroy the old way of thinking, the old world, our psychological, spiritual world. And what does fire do? Fire destroys the old so that the new may be born. And that's a spiritual, the spiritual thing that's happening in the world right now with all the drug problem and the violence and the corruption. People are being eaten from the inside out. And if we allow that to continue, the fire just keeps spreading and spreading and spreading. And we need to have clarity. And we need to search deep within ourselves to understand that what is happening on a spiritual level and how to stop it and how to try to help some of the people that are caught up in this as well, the ones that need the help. A lot of people are lost already. And, we need to be aware of it and realize how we can actually make the system to help us, create this new world that we so much desire and what it's going to look like. So that's the spiritual sense. I love because that. I have some ideas on how to programs and systems that we can create, radical ideas. I think we should legalize drug. I was reading a book the other day about how Portugal was one of the worst, countries with a drug famine that was consuming the whole nation, and they legalized. They didn't legalize. They decriminalized drugs, and you know their death from drugs went down 80%, and their heroin addicts went down from 100,000 to 25,000, and the whole system, worked. And here we are fighting a war against drugs for what, the last 60 years? Has it gotten any better? It's just getting worse. So it's a disease, it's a problem that we need to solve some other way. And when you couple that with fighting drug trafficking, or even have even more radical ideas, which I can tell you about, but let's say you have these, use, like I said, the programs that are working around the world that we can implement, because this country is built from people from all over the world. And why shouldn't we look at some of these programs and say, hey, it worked for them, let's try it. Just to try it. We don't have to implement the whole nation and decriminalize drugs all over the United States. You can try it in a certain state or a certain area and see how it goes, And I think we'll be astonished by the results. And some of the even more radical ideas that I have is, some of where these drugs are going to come from. Okay, so you're going to decriminalize drugs, but pharmaceutical companies are going to make these drugs, or who? Well, you might talk to some of these drug dealers and, legalize their business. So as opposed to them having to, kill people and destroy families and take over nations, maybe they can have a legal cocaine business where they send cocaine legally to the United States and they can use it. I don't know. It's like ideas that I have, and they don't need to be 100%. But I am sure that we need to look at different ways that we can implement so that we can try to evolve and change the system, because the old system is not working. It's not working. When I talk to you about the social consciousness, the social consciousness and how these big corporations need to put money back, it's a new system, because the old system of capitalism doesn't work. It works, and it has, but we've seen the result. And what is the result of perfect capitalism? It's a huge wealth gap that I don't know if we're ever going to, take care of that. When you look at that, 20% of the people, 20% of the wealthy people in the nation own 80% of the wealth. That is huge. And that is the result of a perfect capitalistic society. So what do we need to do? We need to humanize capitalism. We need to bring the human aspect into it, so that people, we create the wealth with the capitalism, but then we put it back into the society and help these kids and help these drug, ridden cities. And I don't know if you've seen them, but the videos, but it's horrendous. And create other programs that we need to, the environmental problems that we need to resolve. We're still burying trash in the ground. That's like primitive. There's mountains of trash here in the city. It's primitive. We should find other ways and fund other programs and try to build new technologies to solve these problems, as opposed to putting more money into the same old system.
Well, I think the last part of what you just said is the biggest item, and that meaning putting money into the same old system. I think putting confidence into the same old governmental parties is where it all boils down to. I know you're reaching out to different moments, different aspects of society which are affected and are affecting our societies. but I think if we pull that curtain back a little bit further and expose the people who are running different aspects of our lives are really where that correction needs to be made.
Yes,
Because
yes,
at the end of the day, I agree with you. Our government should be only about protection, freeways, infrastructure. Protection meaning the police, the military, and all that.
right,
That's really at the end of the day where a government should stop its boundaries. That's where its boundaries should end. Is
right.
is
And making sure
those
that
areas.
things go fairly, is making sure that we play a fair game
No, I don't think.
and then
No,
corruption, you know?
no, 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 no. Because the biggest corrupt agency in the world is our government, and only followed closely by probably the European governments, and
Right.
China leading it all, because that's pure communism.
Well, we
When you
need to see,
when you
because the
kill
corruption
hundreds
needs
of
to
millions of
it's,
people because they're Christians, and the government's doing
yeah,
that, that's not somebody we want to look to as being a
right.
spotlight of where we should be headed. But let me ask you this. So you talk about the human consciousness, and I agree with you. And what signs do you see where it's actually, let's go to David here, where the human consciousness is actually rising? Where do you see that? Where do you see that evidence coming from?
Well, if you talk to people, and there's like, you see it in people where they are not satisfied. Like we are talking about this now, and so many people are watching, and I've seen many shows in social media and everywhere else where we criticize the government, where we talk about it, and it's growing in our consciousness. It's growing within ourselves where we realize there's a problem and we need to do something about it. And we're starting to talk about it now. And that needs to lead to action. So we got to put a plan together so we can actually do something about it. Because talking about it is not really going to solve anything. It's a good start,
No.
but we need to put a plan together where we say, well, we're going to target, health insurance industry, or we're going to target, sports team, and talk to them and say, listen, we want you to put back into society such a percentage. You negotiate, and then we can, negotiate and maybe help them realize that they need to help us out because we're going through a very hard time in the United States, and we need these social programs to help us, become a better nation. And so I see the most people feel it within themselves, and we got to realize that this world of spirituality and higher consciousness is just as real as the physical world, and it influences the things that we do. And when we are in touch with that, we can tell when things are when we are in trouble, or when we need to make certain decisions to change our lives. We do it in our own personal lives, just like we do it in our own personal lives. We see it and we feel it in society. And that's why and it's something that's been with me, not just now, but my whole life. Always knew that I was like meant for something to help humanity in one way or another change and become better. Because I've always looked at the positive aspects of the human race, and the potential that we have towards greatness, and it's a message that was implanted within my subconscious mind, and it's really gotten to the point where I can't contain it anymore. And I've tried before, but I can't contain it anymore. So I need to get the message out, and hopefully enough people will listen to actually make a difference. excuse me. And I talk about it in the book. I talk a little bit about my life, some of the life experiences that have shaped the way that I think and I view the world. And yeah, I mean, I decided to call myself the Paraclete because doing some deep, psychological self-reflection and trying to really identify who I was, in regards to what I wanted to do in the world. And I realized that I wanted to be an advocate or a helper for humanity to achieve a better future and to advocate this divine plan that is in place if we want it. So, the Paraclete also means the spirit of truth. So I try to speak the truth whenever I can. And I mean, always. But it's why I chose that name, because it's who I identify with. And I think a lot of people should, if you're into spirituality and religion, and there's so many of them, you should choose a character from that particular religion or myth and live it. If you are Christian and you're looking towards Christ as your leader, well, be like Christ. Live your life as Christ, and you will personify Christ in this lifetime. And that's what the Bible talks about bringing Jesus Christ back. It's not talking about somebody coming down from the heavens in a white horse. It means you let it grow within you, and then you create millions of Jesuses, millions of Buddhas, millions of Martin Luther Kings, millions of Gandhi in the world, and that's how it transforms. So that's the process, and I mean, that's the plan. That's the divine plan.
That is beautiful, my friend. I absolutely love this show. I love your message. I love what you're going. I can't believe we've already gone an hour and a half. It feels like 15 minutes. It's just popped by. We've got 400 people on, and your message is amazing. Any last final comments before I wrap it up and put you in the green room here? What do you want to leave?
Let me show my book, because I do have a book.
No. Also, one other. Absolutely, yes. One other thing I want you to do is also put in the private chat. I don't know why you can't put it in the comments, but put in the private chat, put in your contact information, because you know how it is. A month from now, a week from now, a day from now, or an hour from now, somebody's going to come on and say, damn, I wanted to ask the Paraclete something. And unless I'm watching it, I want him to be able to contact you directly as well. But yes, let's talk about the book for a minute and your closing comments. You got 400 people here, your new fan club here, additional fan club. Why don't you put in your contact information and tell everybody what you want to leave them with?
Okay, I gotta see how I do this here.
Should be on your right side, I think, on the right side or the left side. I'll stay looking this way, Don.
Okay.
I've got a photographer here now. I've got somebody taking pictures, and I can never miss out on a beautiful shot here. So okay. So Mr. Paraclete, what do you got for a closing statement for us?
Yes.
All right. While you're doing that, I'm going to put you off stage and kind of wrap up some things here. I want to get to a couple of these questions while he's putting that information in. How can we merge ancient wisdom with modern science effectively? Well, I think basically what he was getting to in there, and something I thought was very fascinating is you've got the ability to use wisdom, which has been around for a long, long time. I mean, we look back at, your gut instinct. How long has people been talking about that? That's not even ancient wisdom. That's just more modern wisdom. You look back at stories that your grandparents and your elders before them told you and how to address issues and situations. And all those truths are still so true. And it's important that we understand how to manage ancient wisdom, which is still very much real today for today's society. As he was talking about it at a number of couple moments there, you've got to be able to step back and want, moving forward, the wisdom of the
I'm having
past
trouble with
to
this.
be able to bring us to the future. What's that? Did you get that information in yet, or you want me to give you some more time off stage there? Oh, you're frozen. I think we lost you there, brother.
I'm losing you a
Hey?
little bit there.
Yeah, you're
You're breaking up.
breaking up quite a bit. Did you
Yeah,
put in the information for
I
the?
didn't. It's asking me to log into YouTube and do things that right now.
No.
I don't
Don't
know.
go into the comments. Don't go into the comments. Further down, it says private chat. The very bottom one on there. There's a little thing that says private chat. Type into there your contact information. While you're doing that, I'll get a couple more of these questions. You see private chat at the bottom there?
Private chat. Okay.
Yep. Put your contact information in there. He can still hear me, so I'm gonna let him hang out in the green room. Just don't touch the green the green colored chocolate covered peanuts. How can families help support the awakening process? Well, I think it all begins in the family. It all begins at that moment, at that point. But your family has to be healed. Your family has to be whole. And a lot of this stuff kind of goes back in, and I hope you're listening there, Paraclete, because our regeneration school program or project is a project here in Mangum that we're looking to. We have a pilot program here, and then community by community scale that up to be a national program where we have a fifth core project in school. So as kids start school, math, English, science, history, and then life, the fifth core project. And that, for everything from mental health to learning how a checkbook works. There we go. Is the book The Modern Citizen? Let me do it this way. No, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do this. Let's do it like this. The Modern Citizen is the name of the book. And I'm going to put that in the comments like that. That should work out good for you. And then I'm going to bring you back on while I do copy and paste the other contact information you have. Why don't you give a closing statement to everybody? Let them know. You got a shadow up here. Something.
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah, you got something on the top of your
There we
camera
go.
there. There you go.
There we go.
Go ahead and leave a closing statement, and I'll jump off, and then I'll meet you in the green room here in a second when I close up, okay?
Very well. Thank you, Rodd. Well, very, very grateful for the opportunity to be here. Thank you, Rodd, and all your guests. I didn't expect to be so many people here, and this is the first podcast that I do. And changing my life and what I used to do is part of the past. And
wait a second. This your very first podcast?
First
Wait, this is your very
podcast.
first podcast?
Yes, sir. Very
All right,
first
then
podcast.
I won't harass you so much because you were not cooperating very well, and now I understand why. Yeah. So,
Well,
so go ahead.
it's a lot to
Hey,
talk about,
I forgive you. I forgive you. I totally
I
get
think
it.
we were. I
I
think we
thought
were
you were
great.
seasoned, dude. I thought you were just beating me up there. Go
No, no,
ahead.
no. The first time I
Go
did
ahead with
this,
your point.
well,
Go ahead.
I'm
Closing
just,
point.
very grateful to you and to your staff and your audience for listening to this message. And I think that we got to be positive and hopeful about the future. We got to have faith, and we got to understand that through love and wisdom, we will achieve the plan of America becoming a even more prosperous nation, and stronger and more unified than ever before. And it is the most critical point in time in our existence. From the time then when the United States was born to now, this is the most critical point in time that
Yeah.
that the United States is facing, because it's going to determine the next 300-400 years of our existence. And we need to be careful, and we need to be aware, we need to be conscious, and we need to be careful, because we can make things worse. And feeding our anger, violence, or hatred towards government, the wealthy, and everything else, that's going to create more chaos. We need to find a way to unite all of us, the government, the wealthy, the middle class, so we can achieve this transformation. And hopefully, with the guidance of the divine, once again, we will achieve such a transformation. Thank you.
That's beautiful, man. Give everybody a big wave. You've got 350 people here listening to your comments, and I appreciate it. Let me close up. Let me close up, and I'll see you back in the green room in a minute. All right, brother?
Okay,
see you on the other side.
Thank you. Love you, man.
Love you too, brother. Yeah, that was awesome. Let me hit a couple of these questions real quick. But before I do that, I just want to comment to his closing remarks there, because they were pivotal, and they were important, and they were prosperous. At the end of the day, hating our government, hating big business, hating putting hate out there and to people within our own system, our own government is anti-productive. The energy going out obviously is more harmful than the actual activity that you're hating against. So I couldn't agree with you more there, Mr. Paraclete, on that aspect, and I think that there's a lot of ways to address that, and to go after that, and to work on making improvements within a system. But I think at the end of the day, it really comes to his point. It comes to us all needing to come back together, as a unified great middle class. What I would then call the giant great middle class. Because once we come together, and we aren't separated by men versus women, black versus white, brown versus white, this religion, Christianity versus Islam, or Judaism, or on and on and on. If we keep allowing ourselves to be divided into, separated into, so on, into different boxes and different groups, we're never going to have the utopia. We're never going to have the perfect union that we've all been promised, and we've all been aware of for most of our lives. The great middle class is having more and more difficulty, more and more challenges, more and more going on each and every day. And we're living in a world that's moving faster than we can catch up to think on. Let me just hit a couple of these questions, and then I'll wrap it up for the day. How can families help support this awakening process. I was talking about that earlier on. It all starts in the family. So families can help by being families, by being brought together, by being a unity, by having open conversation, by giving their teens voices, on and on and on. That's how we do this, folks. What does spiritual maturity look like in everyday life? It's simply this. You live by the word of God, or by of your higher power. Living in a world with that, something you can leave your lessons onto, something that can carry that burden, is what we as human beings, as the human spirit, as the human being, have and is necessary for developing the best of who you are. It all comes from inside out. That's what spiritual maturity looks like. Being comfortable within your own talking space, within your own within your own skin, so to speak. What's the first step for someone who feels disconnected from purpose? Find that purpose. If you're disconnected from purpose, you need to be able to connect to something, and you know that something when you feel it. I say that way for a reason. When you have a purpose, you're connected to a purpose. It's something you can feel. It's a thing. It's like having a burden, but the opposite of. Instead of carrying that weight, it's lifting you. That purpose is lifting you. And we all get disconnected here and there, and things happen. People happen to us. Moments happen to us. But at the end of the day, having that spiritual being, having that God, having that other be there to carry you. You guys know, I've talked about this before. You guys know the it's a poem, it's a riff, whatever you want to call it. It's called Footsteps, right? And it's a it's a very famous one page kind of thing, statement that says, why at times when I needed you most were there only one set of footsteps, and other times there were two. Well, and that's the time that God carries you. Those footsteps in the sand that you see when there's two, right? You're walking together. When there's one, you're being carried. So just remember that when you feel disconnected, it's time for you to let God carry you through those moments and bring that connection to you. I hope that helps. A couple more here. What spiritual principles do you think America has forgotten? I don't think America in general has forgotten anything. I think that there's a lot of noise in the world today. I think there's a lot of chaos. I think that there's a lot of the devil. Um, the the Paraclete talks about that for America to become even more prosperous, to become better. Well, I think that we're living in a very prosperous time, and I heard something once that really struck me hard, and makes me appreciate the struggles that I do go through, both mentally as well as physically, as well as economically. I think we all have issues that come to us at times, and um, there was a comment once that was regarding, why God do you give me, why do people in my lives that I loved and trusted harm me so, or go after me? I'm paraphrasing here, but the comment back from God was that, so that you would come to me and trust me and lean on me when you need help. The point being, when things are really good, we tend to not communicate with our Lord or the higher being. We tend to. That's when kind of the devil comes into our space. When things are good, we start acting a different way, and our priorities start changing. You a couple of questions ago, we were talking about spiritual maturity. That's something we all need to continue to build, even when you're there at that moment, and when you have Christ in your life, then you have that moment. But then as things get better and better and move forward, you need to still be in that moment, and you need it's like, God is nothing more than your father, your dad, right? Your dad wants nothing more than you to do better than he did, right? And so your dad, no matter whether he does it right or wrong, and God is perfect, so let the similarities have their restrictions, but your dad is the only person who ever wanted you to exceed and excel and do better than ever or any other before. It's same thing as God. He wants you to do better. Now, when you start doing better, when you're in trouble, who do you go to? You go to your parents when you're a kid, right? But when you're doing really good, you go party, right? You go do things differently. So you've got to remember that we all need a lot more work and purpose in this world, and there's ways for us to make those things happen, and we need to make sure and spend more time on those things and on those purposes. So as far as the spiritual principles that America's forgotten, I don't know that we've forgotten any. I think we ignore all of those spiritual principles. I think back in the day, rhetoric was evident and available then as well, meaning spiritual rhetoric, over the top stuff. I mean, my God, we burned witches back in the day. Uh, so not everything was exactly perfect then, but what we did have is we had more of a foundation of what spiritual elements were in our lives. So I think what we need to do is get back to moments in time when we're more grounded and have the ability to really look at what is real. Our gut instinct needs to come back and be more prominent. Thanks for sharing your vision. How can communities practice collective purpose? Why don't I bring you back on, Parasite? I'm sorry. Why don't I bring you back on for one quick second? Why don't you answer this last question for David, and then I'll let you go.
Okay, what's the question?
It's thanks for sharing your vision. How can communities practice collective purpose? 2 minutes. 1 minute
Okay.
and 50 seconds.
The plan is that communities need to come together and look at the businesses around them and find out what they can do for them, what they can do, what can they contribute to that community. Okay. And we need to look at professionals individually, large, small, medium businesses, and say to these people, listen, but we need to form groups that can do this.
30 more seconds.
And actually demand from these companies more social consciousness to help the poor and the homeless and mental illness and drug problems and all the and education and all the things that we need to get done, because it's not all about the money. It's about the prosperity of the nation, and that's what we're looking for. And if we keep hugging that money and hoarding it, we're not going to be able to get anywhere. And that's how these individuals will become the leaders of our society, and we will appreciate them more, as opposed to seeing them driving around in Lamborghini or Rolls Royce. That's not what we admire. We admire what you can do for the society. And we're going to love you the
Beautiful.
more for doing that.
Beautiful, my man. Beautiful,
Thank
my man.
Thank you.
Big wave. Bye-bye. I'll talk to you later down the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Rodd. Thank you.
So beautiful story. It looks like everybody's starting to dive off here. So I'll wrap it up. I appreciate everything. The Paraclete, beautiful name, beautiful book. You've got the contact information right here for his email address, as well as the Modern Citizen. That's the name of the book. And you can pick that up anywhere you Amazon and so forth. But please give him a holler, check it out, and subscribe to our channel. Hit up our Substack at Insights Straight Talk Insights Straight Talk .substack.com. And with that, I am your host. Hang out for after the outro, and I'll do one of my goofy little things again. And now let me hand it over to producer Barbie. Why? Because I'm out.
Before you leave, if you'd like to watch another one of the podcasts, click the first link in the description. We love having you here, and we appreciate all your support.
And with that, producer Barbie and I are out.